What's up guys, it's Victor. Today I want to talk about smart lighting and my years of experience having set up and used a variety of different brands of smart lighting. If you're someone who's in the market for smart lights, then listen up because before you buy any of them, make sure you watch this video first as I'll be giving you first-hand experience with what it's like using the products I have with Siri and Apple HomeKit, and how you can learn from my many pitfalls in order to make sure that you are the most informed buyer you can be. So be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it as it does help out my channel and helps me to continue making these informative videos for you guys. So if you wouldn't mind doing just that for me, then I would be very grateful. Lastly, this video is part of a larger series of videos that I have been putting out, breaking down every aspect of a smart home that you need to know. Therefore, there are a lot of things that I won't be going over for the sake of time. So if you haven't seen my previous videos about building and preparing your smart home, then I highly recommend you watch those videos first before starting this one. Smart lighting has been around for a while now. Everything from the clap-on to what we have now, which is smart home integration with the help of smartphones. And the market has become a bit saturated when it comes to smart lighting that it can be very difficult to decide which lights to buy when shopping for some. So before I even bought any of them, I did extensive research on which lights to buy and why. And after using them for a while, there were a lot of surprises that I ran into which I hope you can avoid and learn from by watching my video. Let's start off with one of the most commercially accessible smart lights, which is the Philips Hue smart lights. I'm sure you've seen this as it's pretty much at every major retailer, and that's because there is no other name that is synonymous with home appliance or lighting than Philips Hue. They're definitely the biggest ones in the game when it comes to smart lighting, as they have a slew of smart lighting available products, from the different types of bulbs they offer to the different types of ambience that you may be trying to achieve, as well as smart switches that integrate perfectly into their ecosystem of products. What's also even better is that Philips Hue line of smart lights work with virtually every smart home API out there, such as Alexa, Google, and HomeKit. However, one thing that still remains true to this day is that they are also the most costly option out there, and there are much better options out there for what they sell. For example, rather than buying and replacing every single bulb in your smart home with a Philips Hue smart bulb, you can buy something like a smart light switch, which will essentially make all of the light bulbs that the light switch controls into smart bulbs. What's even better is that the Caseta also has a smart dimmer switch to enable you to dim those lights as well. Now, Caseta is a pretty expensive brand, so another option would be to buy the Wemo smart switches, which basically have the same features. But the only drawback is that they have this really bright and annoying light attached to the front of them, which can be very distracting. Another downside to Hue smart lighting is their smart light strips. I had actually purchased them before, and I was totally shocked to see that the light strips are single zone only. That means that the light strip can only support one color at a time, which is a huge drawback in my opinion. So for light strips, I have gone with the LifeX light strips, which I have discussed in some detail in my desk setup video. So if you haven't seen that video, then go check it out. Unlike the Philips Hue brand of light strips that only support one color per strip, the LifeX is multi-zone and can change and adapt into an array of different colors, which makes ambient light much more pleasing in my opinion. The other drawback of the Philips Hue is that they lack Siri shortcut support. What I mean by that is that there are a lot of great features baked into the Philips Hue app that give the Philips Hue smart lights more functionality, such as the Hue Labs, where you can apply special effects, such as this candlelight effect, onto their bulbs. Sadly, Siri cannot apply these effects through the Shortcuts app very easily and require a workaround, which I will discuss in much greater detail in a separate video, as I don't want to make this video longer than it already is, so be sure to be subscribed for that. However, the biggest strength that I think Hue has is their reliability. When you ask your smart home assistant like Siri to turn on the Philips Hue light bulbs, they respond immediately most of the time. I'd say about 95% of the time. This is because the Hue smart bulbs run off of the Philips Hue bridge, which acts as a hub for all of the Philips Hue smart bulbs, and connect using Z-Wave, which is a more reliable wireless connection than your own Wi-Fi because it can't be easily interfered and has greater distance. The bridge itself also must be directly attached to your router as well, which also helps the light bulbs respond faster to your commands as they are essentially directly attached to your network. So now that we've discussed Philips Hue's strengths and weaknesses, when should you buy and use Philips Hue smart lights? Well, you should only use them in places where you are really trying to achieve ambience over just convenience. If you look at a lot of the ads for Philips Hue light bulbs, one of the things that you'll notice is that the rooms they are placed in are filled with color. However, this can only be achieved in certain scenarios. One of the things that you have to make certain of is if the room you are placing the bulbs in have the right foundation for the light to travel. What I mean is these lights work better in closed off rooms like a bedroom or a living room. Having these kinds of colored lights outside may not make a whole lot of sense because different colors don't travel that far and actually makes the lights appear dimmer than what they actually are compared to much more warmer light colors. Also, if you don't really utilize the multicolor functionality within some of the multicolored Philips Hue light bulbs, then you're basically throwing away money at that point, so it's pretty much meaningless to buy them, and you're better off just buying the warm and light color only variants. Another thing to consider is what kind of color that your room is painted. Obviously, having a white colored room like mine works the best because it allows the colors to bounce off the walls more freely rather than being absorbed by darker wall colors. For my bedroom, I decided to paint it this off-white color and then go with this ultra-white as an accent for the trimming. This allows the tone of my room to remain very neutral while not being an eyesore to look at, and also allows the colors of my different light fixtures to flourish and essentially paint the room any color that I want. My old room colors didn't allow for this to happen, which is noticeable in my older videos as the lights were just unable to travel very far at all. So to recap, if you know you don't plan on using a multicolored setup in your room, then just use a smart switch. Now, I briefly mentioned LifeX, which makes great light strips, and I have quite a few of them, and I love them. When they work, that is. One of the biggest drawbacks that I can't stress enough is that their smart lights can be pretty unreliable when responding to Siri commands. They probably respond to them about 45% of the time, and I know it has nothing to do with my home network, but rather the way they are set up. They connect only using Wi-Fi, and one of the biggest drawbacks of that is the way Wi-Fi works. Unlike a direct connection to the network like an Ethernet connection, Wi-Fi 5 or AC has to constantly switch between every other Wi-Fi host in your home, and sometimes it just isn't fast enough to read the current state of that light and can take a while sometimes in order to change the state of your lights. I constantly have to pull out my phone and open the LifeX app as that seems to be the best way they respond, which is a bummer because, as I said in my previous video, the best way you want to set up your smart home is to simplify it by allowing everything to be controlled easily through one app, which in my case is the Home app for iOS. But sometimes HomeKit has a difficult time sending commands and getting a response from the LifeX lights that most of the time they just come up as unavailable. It really sucks because unlike Philips Hue, LifeX allows for further integration into the HomeKit with Siri shortcuts, which allows you to control more of the functions of their smart lights such as their effects. This makes them easier to control and set a scene with through one Siri command, which I have created for this room so that I don't have to open about 3 different apps in order to achieve the same look of this room. So now that you know about some of the strengths and drawbacks of LifeX smart lights, do you think they're still worth it? For me, I will deal with their drawbacks for now, until there's a better option, and once there is, I'll be sure to review it for all of you guys to see, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Now, let's talk about nanoleaf shapes. These have been a favorite of mine because they offer a great ambient lighting that are very responsive, unlike LifeX, which begs me to question whether or not it's just a network protocol, because unlike LifeX, the nanoleaf can only operate on a 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi connection and not the faster 5 GHz. This can actually make it a bit challenging to set up in your home if you have not separated your 2.4 and 5 GHz connections into separate Wi-Fi hotspots. So what I actually had to do is to take the little controller for the nanoleaf and pull it away from the hotspot so that it would only detect the longer range connection in order to get it set up, which can make it a hassle to do after you have already mounted the lights to your wall and for whatever reason you had to factory restore them. Anyways, besides that negative, these are amazing lights which offer very big and bright colors that will fit practically any room that they are in. However, these cost a fortune and you only start off with 7 shapes, which is hardly enough, so you're going to find yourself buying a lot of extension packs in order to bring your designs to life. I like how the Nanoleaf does allow you to create and preview your designs though, as it does make it very easy to see what you can expect before committing to a design. There are also different shapes and sizes that you can buy in order to bring basically whatever you can imagine to life. The Nanoleaf also integrates perfectly into your smart home as it can be used with things like Siri shortcuts. It also features some gesture features which, if I'm honest, don't respond that well. I mean, I remember watching the tutorial videos from Nanoleaf for some of these features and they make it look so responsive, but I have never been able to get them to respond that well to the different touch and swipe features that they offer. In fact, it ended up creating a lot of false positives, which would inevitably lead to it triggering some of my smart lights that I set it up with, and sometimes in the middle of the night, which is annoying, so I ultimately ended up turning these features off. Another thing to be aware of is when mounting these things, as they provide you some mounting tape that is easily removable. However, I didn't find the tape to be that strong, at least not on my wall, which does have this Spanish lace design, so it's not completely flat. But I didn't think this would be too much of an issue. However, they inevitably ended up falling down while I was at work, and thankfully my bed is sitting just below them because I do not want to test the durability of these panels at all. But I would imagine that they aren't. So I went with some old reliable Scotch mounting tape, which is a bit overkill, but at least I won't have to worry about them again. The Nanoleaf also features a community-built effect store where you can test out different lighting patterns and effects for your Nanoleaf, which I have found very useful, especially when it comes to some of the rhythm lighting effects, which actually listen to the sound of your music and respond with different colors. Thankfully, the controller will always alert you with this light when the microphone is in use, in case you are worried if your lights are ever listening in on you. Now, one of the smart lighting things that I don't see getting talked about a lot are some of the smart lighting fixtures that are out there. So one of them that I have is this Hunter Smart Fan, which is one of the only brand of fixtures that works with HomeKit, and so far I haven't had many issues with. I will say though that the fan is not as strong as I would have liked, but it does get the job done as far as cooling a room down a bit. However, here is one thing that you need to be aware of when buying a smart fixture such as this one, and that is the way it is set up and controlled in your wall. Some of them run off of one switch, while others run off of 2. However, for fans such as this, you basically have to rely on using their remote or using your phone to control them, because adding any further complexity to this can cause major issues that I'm about to share with you. So one major drawback with introducing smart lights into your home is how you choose to control them. For one, you can still use your traditional light switch to turn them off and on, but the only problem is once you turn them off, you can't control them with your voice assistant anymore until you turn them back on and wait a little for them to reconnect. This is one major struggle for all smart things, as they basically always have to be on in order to receive commands. But this is also where switches such as the Cassetta and a Wemo switch make a whole lot of sense, because they make this switch smart, which basically eliminates that issue. However, with this smart fixture, you introduce another controller into the mix, which is the fan remote itself, and that doesn't always play nice with the smart wall switch, as well as the smart bulb inside of the fixture, which can also be controlled by your smartphone or voice assistant. This creates a very complicated issue where the controls won't be able to match with what you want them to do, because there are too many variables within each of them. Basically, what I should have done is just buy a dumb light fixture, no remote control or anything, and just use a smart switch instead to control it. However, I did want smart color changing bulbs inside of this fixture, and that still creates an issue where if I tell Siri to turn on my bedroom lights, it will struggle to turn on the fixture lights because unless Siri turns on the smart light switch first in order to give power to the fixture, the light may never come on and she'll report back with an error because she is focused on the Philips Hue bulb more than the fixture itself, which it doesn't even have power. Which means my only other option would just be to use this smart fixture, but essentially leave it on at all times and just use Siri to control it. But sometimes Siri is not the quickest or even the most reliable option. Sometimes having a switch is just better for that quick control. Either way, I'm basically stuck with what I have, although I will be switching out these two Wemo smart switches with some Caseta branded ones later in the future. Anyways, smart lights enable you to do cool things like create scenes, such as this one I have now, which is technically a Siri shortcut because the scene features built into the Home app don't allow you to apply these effects that are available within the individual apps that these products come with. So both scenes and Siri shortcuts allow you to quickly set the ambience of any room you want with just one voice command, which, like I've said before, works most of the time. Another convenient thing you can do with smart lighting is pair them with another smart product such as smart sensors. For example, I bought a Wemo smart door sensor for our back door, and what that allowed me to do is have the sensor control the smart lights outside to automatically turn on whenever someone opens the back door at night, then turn back off 10 minutes later. That way, we don't have to go and look for the switch or forget to turn off the back porch light after coming back in from throwing out the trash or something. Similarly, you can pair the sensors or smart cameras to also control the lights by setting up these automations with your smart home integration app. I have automations for a lot of things, such as turning on and off the outdoor lights during different times of the day, or turning on the lights within my bedroom in order to help me get up in the morning in order to get ready. It's really worth spending some time with your smart home integration app to see what kind of combinations or automations that you can create based on the things that you commonly do. And with that, that will wrap up this video. Thank you all for watching and let me know what you guys think. Will you be buying smart lights soon? Which ones would you buy and why? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Don't forget to say subscribe for my next video on how to use this amazing Siri shortcut which will change the way you use your Philips Hue bulbs. Also, quick note, I was just featured on a podcast called the Prickly Things Podcast where I talk about everything about my personal life that is, if you've ever been curious to know anything about me, then this will be the place to do it, is the Prickly Things Podcast. So I'll definitely leave a link to that podcast in the description below. Be sure to like and subscribe to that podcast. Give that podcast 5 stars because it is an amazing podcast which you should check out. So let me know what you guys think about that. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.